I used to coach baseball. I can tell you, I kept a book because I don't always remember everything that happens during the heat of the moment, so I'd like to have some documentation so afterwards I can go back and I can say, I knew that kid was 0 for 4, and his parents really didn't think he was. So, sorry, specific example, but yeah, so you have a goal. We got to measure progress towards the goal. It's a pretty good one. What else?
Well, I think it goes off what you just said. When you look at that Google spreadsheet, you got them categorized as green, yellow, red. From assessment, you want to see what did I teach right or wrong. Go back and make the red jump to yellow, yellow jump to greens, or like Juggy said, let's take the reds up to green. Maybe you get a kid or two that you go back and reteach, and suddenly it's there. So I think it just helps you follow the point.
So I like that we mentioned color coding. It's a really simple idea, but I will tell you there are some ways in Illuminate and in most tools where you can collect data and there's no color coding whatsoever. It's just a data table. And so when we start talking about color coding, it's really how do we want our data to be represented visually so it tells a story. And so like Nate said, yeah, if we want stoplight colors, awesome. That's going to quickly give us a clue as to are we moving the reds to greens, are we moving, how does that look? Maybe some people might say, well, I want it to be broken down by standard or by I can statement. Okay, if that's a need, then you got to make sure the tool fits the need. All right, what else?
I think two things that just popped into my head is just proving our instruction, but what supports do we need to help, where our gaps are in the data, what supports do we need to help our students achieve?
So perhaps some questions about resources and how do we use those resources, how are they aligned to what we believe it should be aligned to? I will say that I have a lot of schools I work with who they're trying to do the RTI thing. Some do it well, some don't do it well. The ones that don't do it well, and I'm not trying to shame you, they might have a way to screen kids, and they figure out which kids need to go to, they have like an RTI hour, so which kids go where, but then that kid is basically stuck in that spot for the semester or for 9 weeks. So one, they had great intentions where they tried to, again, resource-wise, they collected the baseline data and figure out these kids at this point in time need to go over here, but now they're starting to wrestle with how do we progress monitor that? How do we make sure that those resources that we're putting towards the kids are have worked, and if they have worked, how do we move them to another area? So yeah, resource-wise, for sure. All right. I can tell you in Calhoun, at least from the ISD perspective, the why for us is we need to show that what we do makes a difference. And so I know Kelly stepped out, and I'd say it if she was here or not, but it's recorded, so this is documented. A lot of times people ask me, what does an ISD do? Like, okay, that's a really good question. So I tell them all the stuff that we do, and I will say one of the things that we are working on is if a district partners with the ISD, how do we collect data and measure that that partnership made a difference? Because I'm being totally honest here, we can get together, we can have some laughs, I can show you how to make a report, how to color code, but at the end of the day, if that's not moving the needle on student achievement, then is this partnership really worth it? So I think for us in Calhoun, it's, if you're going to partner with us and we're going to work together as a consortium, then I need to be able to show you that we moved the needle.
It kind of goes along with what I was thinking with, sometimes it's not only challenging, but you get some affirmation from it. Like, oh, okay, so we are doing better there or in that, in math or in reading or whatever than we thought we were, which just regenerates the engines. It's that balance of challenging and affirming.
Yeah, so it's like collecting the data can be a grueling process.
It may not be, but I mean, it may be affirming or not.
Yeah, so both sides of the coin.
There's a shot.
Yeah, I will say one of the, and I don't know if the chronic absenteeism wave has made its way over here yet, but the chronic absenteeism is a huge topic that we're talking about in our consortium. And so the nice part is that that's a pretty, like, who can't get behind that kids should be in school? I mean, that's a pretty easy initiative to rally people behind. And so when we start looking at the data, we start to realize, okay, so this is our current reality. We got about 1/3 of our kids who are chronically absent last year. That's a bummer. But in these pockets, it's not as bad. So you're right, there's both sides to it. And I will say, just a quick commercial for that, we have taken chronic absenteeism data, because all of you send it up to the state at the end of the year collection. We have flagged those kids who are chronically absent the last 2 years or the last year in Illuminate. So we can run any local assessment that's in Illuminate, and we can say, show me how kids did who are chronically absent versus show me how kids did who are not chronically absent. And so it's very, very easy to show the academic impact of chronic absenteeism. Because unfortunately, we still have some people who say, yeah, the kid missed 10 days or more for whatever reason, but I don't know that it makes a difference academically. Which may be true in some cases, but in other cases, I can tell you for us, it's not.
That's why I was referring to earlier with, we share kids, if a kid comes from wherever, the same county, we pull it up instantly and go, okay, this kid has missed a ton of days.
Yep.
So
And you all use
where I was going with that.
Power School, right?
Yeah.
You all, so, and I mean, you got some great Power School folks
But
here.
I'm looking at the difference between the test scores and the attendance.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in Power School, you can run the at-risk analytics report.
Yep.
Can you take that information, does that tie to Illuminate? Is that how, I mean, what information, because we have a huge initiative in Jackson County going on with
Do you?
School Justice Partnership.
Oh, okay.
attendance, and,
Yep.
it's a report that we started running, and again, it color codes kids by what we put in.
Mhm.
But that just carries over to Illuminate, or you can set it up to.
That would be so it's a really good tech person question, and I'm not a programmer, but what I can say is in Power School, if you can run a report that has the kids' UIC, and then whatever measure of risk level that module calculates, then you can import that into Illuminate. So all it takes to import stuff into Illuminate is the UIC, which is not the Power School ID, but the state ID, and then whatever other data you want. So you can literally say, I want to know who are my kids who are right-handed and kids who are left-handed. And if you got the UIC, and then if they're right or left, you can import that in. And I think that's where at the ISD level, since you have some really good Power School folks here at the ISD, they can leverage your collaboration to do some of those things at the county level. So, and that's I think to me that's the goal. Is I want my districts to come to me and say, hey, all 21 of us would like for you to do this, this, and this, and I'm celebrating that. The hard part is when 2 say they want this, 1 say they want this, 3 say they want that. And that's an ISD problem, not a local problem, but it's just hard to scale when we do things like that. And with all using Power School, that's a huge benefit because we don't have that luxury. So yeah, that's totally doable. All right, so moving into the tool area. This is a super simple question, but one that I always overlook. I had to do a quick Google search of what your guys' Illuminate URL is, and there it is, jcisd.illuminateed.com. I cannot log into it, so if nobody's asked me yet, hey, what's my Illuminate password? Because I don't know, I don't have access to your guys' stuff over here. I just have Barry Branch and Kelvin. One piece, and who said it? Somebody over here said they may not know that this is a link on our school webpage. Me. All right, that's a pretty key part. I would encourage you, to put this link, if this is a tool that you would like staff to use, put it on your website.
Maybe our ISD could do that too, because they still have data director on it. Did you notice that?
We have a person that helps us in our district with that too,
So do the ISDs manage all your guys' websites?
No, but on the ISD website, like where we used to go to get data director,
Yes.
and it's
Oh,
still
that's a quick
says
win.
data director.
Yeah, that's a quick win. Kelly, run the tape back on that. We'll capture it. Okay. So just a quick thing to think about, at the ISD level, I'm sure that Kelly can take that back to Shannon and his crew to update that on the ISD's website, and then wherever your staff go, if you got a staff resource page locally, it's a good idea to kind of toss that up there. Down the road, if your district chooses to do online testing, you want kids to go into Illuminate and take the test online, which I would highly encourage, especially if you're doing MSTEP online. Then you got another question, which is the link the kids use, because the kids don't use this same link. It's a little bit different. So where do we put that? And I'm assuming that within your district you have a student resource page, perhaps, that you could put that link on. And if not, might be something to think about. All right? Okay. So this is a necessary evil. that we just have to go through, and that is just making sure everybody knows how to log in. Everybody knows where the help documentation is, all of that stuff. So again, I gave you the login. Does anybody not know their login? And I guess you don't have to tell me right now, but when Kelly comes back in, we'll want to piece that apart. If you don't know your login, guys, what's the process here in Jackson?
I think what they did is gave everybody their standard login with first name, last name, and then they just rolled over your password that you're using.
But one thing, I don't know if you guys have, our counselors didn't have access. So I had to like specifically email somebody and say, will you give these 3 counselors access? So I don't know who they rolled over, if it was just like teachers and principals or what, but.
I know in Calhoun we have, it's all reliant on the PIC number. So in Power School, for example, people who have PIC numbers and who have kids rostered to them, they automatically have an account created for them. But people like interventionists, counselors, if they don't have kids rostered to them and they don't have a PIC number, then we have to create a manual. Does anybody know in here if the forgot your password link works for you guys? So that's another option. I know it's kind of hard to see, but right here, that's also hard to see. It's right here. So forgot your password. You can click that, put your email address in. If your email address is in Power School, that's where all this comes from. And if it's correct, then you should be able to type it in. Get an email, and in the email you got your username and then a link to reset your password. A little hack that we use in Calhoun. If we want staff to log in, which is like a horrible part of the training to get all staff to log into something, which is really never fun, we make sure that all of their information is correct, and then we just have them click that link. So we tell staff, hey, the first time you log into Illuminate, go to this website, click the forgot your password link, put your email in, and then you can do all the rest of it yourself. You get your username, you get to reset your password, and then we don't have to have like little pieces of paper and stuff like that. So there's that. All right, so that's a quick little look at logging in, using the forgot your password link. The next piece I wanted to talk about is help documentation. Illuminate has some amazing help documentation, and in fact, I love it because when we used to have Data Director, I used to have to make YouTube videos of everything in Data Director because their documentation was a little outdated. So I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have as many followers on YouTube, which is kind of a bummer, but I also don't have to make the videos. So when you log in, if you click this little control panel link in the top right-hand portion of your screen, you're going to see this window that pops up. And there are a couple of things that you can do. Does everybody see this? You have this when you log in? Okay. Now, for me, I have lots of sites in this drop-down menu. I got lots of sites because, like I said, I work in 21 districts. You, depending on how your access is set up, you may have all the sites in your district. You may only have your site. It all depends on how you set it up. Okay? So I just want to kind of point that out. I'm going to skip that one. Here's the next piece. Whoops. Come back. This link right here, lessons and videos, that's where you can get, well, lessons and videos. If you're wondering how to do something in Illuminate. And your screen may look a little bit different because they've updated this page. But do you all see the lessons and videos part? Yep. Excellent. So once you click lessons and videos, it's going to take you to a screen that looks like this. These are the 3 parts to Illuminate. They've got an SIS, they've got a special ed module, and they've got a data warehouse. In Calhoun, we use the special ed and the data warehouse. You guys only use data and assessment. So we can click right on data and assessment.
That's if you click on lessons and videos?
Yep, should be.
Mine is different.
Yours is different. Does it take you to a screen where you can search for a topic?
It says we're here to help, yep.
Oh, okay, I need to update this. I apologize. So let's do this. Thank you. Control panel, lessons and videos. Yeah, I need to update this. So here it's like Google. You can basically search. So if I'm wondering, how can I show student growth with Illuminate? I can search for student growth, and I'm not going to say they're great results, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes up with student growth.
So, let's
Here.
say,
So So that at the ISD level, we provide a script to the locals that runs every night. So in Power School, there's a script that pulls data that runs every night. I don't know if you guys send that directly to Illuminate, or if all of that data goes to the ISD first and then they package it up. Does anybody know?
We send it to the ISD.
Okay.
I just did a ticket.
Oh, perfect.
And sent them our NWA data and then they upload it.
How about from Power School? Do you know if the data goes from Power School to the ISD first, or does it go from Power School to the, you guys are making fun of me, right?
I don't know, I kinda thought they didn't talk very much.
No, no.
Yeah, I'm loaded as a teacher from a different district in Illuminate.
Years ago.
Yes!
Yeah, 2013.
I didn't do
So
that.
I just told her once.
Do you know?
I don't know, I know that when it was data director, it automatically updated at midnight every night, but I thought there wasn't quite as close of a connection between Power School and Illuminate.
Here's how it works in Calhoun. What we do is every district that we work with, every night, every afternoon about 4 o'clock, jobs start running in their local SIS that creates a file. We have a job that goes to each district, picks up those files, bring it into the ISD, we put it into a big database, and then we build our files and send them over to Illuminate. So that's how we do it. Some schools choose, other schools around the state will choose to send the data from Power School directly to Illuminate, and then it never goes to the ISD. We chose to have it all come through us because from a troubleshooting standpoint, it's just easier to have all data in the database to troubleshoot.
I'm not asking that, but I don't see anything from anybody.
So this is a great time to talk about troubleshooting process. If kids are wrong, if your account is wrong, then what's the process to get that fixed? Send in a ticket. Okay. That's what we tell our folks. Actually, what we tell our folks to do is, if you're a teacher and you find that, then you need to talk to a building or district level person, and if they can't figure out, then they send a ticket in. But if you guys have a process where you just send a ticket in, then
That's pretty simple.
Yep.
Usually they call me.
they just call you. Yeah,
I tell
right.
them to send me a ticket,
Right.
because I don't know either.
So that's a little quick look at the help documentation. I'm not going to go over all of these pieces. If you've been to any training before, there's a dashboard that has widgets that run numbers for you. I'm not going to go into the dashboard feature too much. But at this point, we've got, I don't know, like a little bit over an hour left. Yeah.
I'm really interested in the assessments because we do SLOs in Columbia.
Okay.
And so we color code them and all that cool stuff with different standards. How do we create the assessments here? If I say I want my instructors to do a certain standard and I want to create an assessment, how do I tell Nate to create that assessment?
Is that a need that other people have? So you may not do SLOs, but what we're describing is how do we make assessments that will collect data relative to outcomes, standards, ICANN statements. Is that a need that other folks have? Because right now I'm kind of at the tipping point where it's like, we can go so many different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, whether it's SLOs or learning targets or anything, so.
Yeah. So we got some stuff we want kids to know. How do we build an assessment? Okay. Sweet. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Before we jump in and I show you, I was forwarding to this picture, so it doesn't matter what this assessment is. I just wanted to show you there are 23 different reports that you can get for every assessment you create. That's a lot. The trick is how do we identify the questions that we want to ask of the data and make sure that there's a report to help answer those questions. Because what a bummer it would be to make the assessment and administer it and then find out, there's no report that can calculate student growth percentile, for example. If you're curious about student growth percentiles, there's no pre-built report that can do that. So this is an example, it's a screenshot of a report, and here's what was asked of me. We're going to give this math assessment, and we want a report that quickly shows us, kid by kid, how they do on addition, subtraction, backwards number, sequence, number ID, structuring numbers. So to me, when we talk about SLOs or ICANN statements, that's just the stuff. That's the stuff we want kids to learn, and we hope there's a report that will categorize the data that way and then color code it. Okay? So I'd like to start with the end in mind. So this is the end result of all of this work. getting a report that helps you do what you need to do. Yes, sir?
I like to stop, like, does it have to just be these two colors, or can you select your levels of improvement, or what's?
Give me an example. Yep, great question. Uh-oh.
Newsflash,
Newsflash, all right.
nothing new.
Let's look at, I'm trying to get a good example. The answer to your question is a quick, you can custom whatever colors you want, whatever cut points you want. If it's all up to you. I'm gonna go ahead and pick this one.
So you can customize them, like, so you can customize them for the district, or can individual teachers customize them for themselves?
What you can do, both. So at a district level, if you have the color coding, they're called performance bands in Illuminate. You can make a performance band and then share that with everybody and say, hey, this is our district performance band. Make sure that you use it for whatever. Or teachers can choose to make their own. But that's an important distinction to make sure that when we're data conferencing, is your performance band the same one that I am? Because if I see a bunch of green on yours, then is that the same that I would think? So quick example here, this is a Math Science Center assessment, 4th grade. This quickly shows, and we did all this color coding. So all these colors that are up here, we pick the colors and we pick the cut points. So it's all customizable. Now if we scroll down below, I know this is a little busy, this shows a breakout by standard. So it doesn't matter what those mean, it's just questions are tied to standards, and then the report aggregates all the points and says here's the average percent correct standard. Now what we can do is we can also color code standard, and this is where I would say the SLOs come in. We can say, don't show the standard code, show this verbiage, and you can tell it exactly what you want it to show. And then you can set the cut points and color code from there. So that's at the standard level, and then down below it's at the question level, and then the subgroup level.
And this is a custom report that you built on one of your assessments?
Nope, this is, we built the assessment,
Yep.
teachers entered the data, and then this just does it.
Everything else.
It's like witchcraft, it just does it. Yep.
I want a nice student, my student.
Yep. So this is the overview page.
Right.
And if we wanted to, we could go here into reports. And these are all of the pre-built reports. So if you're familiar with Data Director, when you give an assessment, there are all these reports over on the right side that just worked, well, most of the time. But these are the 23 reports that automatically color code and do some stuff. And you're exactly right. Some have student names, some aggregate. So for example, if we wanted to look at this matrix report, I'll click the little eye so you can get a picture as to what it looks like. This is where it will show each individual kid name, and then how do they perform within each question. Instead of questions, it could be the standards. You can, and all of this runs based on drop down. So we can pick a drop down menu, run this for my 3rd hour kids, aggregate it by standard or by question. It's all based on just drop down choices.
So how do we do it?
Yep. How do we do it?
It looks fantastic.
It does. Okay. You guys ready? Okay. If you don't capture everything I say, that means you're human. Where can you go for help docs? Yep. Control panel, lessons and videos. You can search for create assessment. Okay? All right. Now, how do you guys learn best? Do you want me to show you a little bit, then pause, and then you work, or do you want to follow step by step with me?
Go a little bit.
Go a little bit, stop? All right, cool. So the first couple steps. Once I log in, I'm going to click this assessments. And I'm going to click create a new assessment. Let's just go there. I'm just going to show you 2, and then we'll stop and talk. You guys good? Are you fast? Okay. All right. This page is asking you what type of assessment do you want to build. We've got on the fly, which this is Illuminate's, this is like the Billy Mays OxyClean Wow the Audience feature. This is where you quickly build an assessment and you get a bubble sheet and you scan it, like your self-checkout at Meijer or something, and it beeps and it collects the data. On the fly, don't do a lot with, I go right to the manual/hybrid assessment. So I'm going to go to the manual hybrid assessment because I have a test. I have a test that I have created that's near and dear to my heart, that I care about, and I want to put into Illuminate. I don't want to use the item bank because I don't want to comb through the item bank and look at all their items. I just want to basically create my own assessment here in the system. So the next question is, how many questions? I'm going to say 10. I'm going to click OK. And then I basically have an information page where I get to enter the title, the subject, basic information about my assessment. So go ahead. You only have to type in a title. So go ahead and do that right now. And then when you're done, go ahead and click Save.
Mine will let me click into,
Says number of questions may only contain numbers and cannot exceed 999.
Ooh, cool.
Well, I think that's a-
Can you scroll?
oh.
Oh, I got you. Scroll up.
I have one quick question.
Yes.
So if we create a quiz, test, whatever we're creating in our assessment, can it be done digitally, like the test actually done digitally, or does it have to be both? Okay.
Yep. Was it the classroom exchange, Nate? We were going to that classroom exchange
Yes.
project? All right, okay. When you said digitally.
Teacher exchange, yes.
Yes. Okay, the only thing I want to say about this one is show in student and parent portal. What this means is if your school ever turns on the student portal for kids to take an assessment in, and if you click yes to that, the kids are going to be able to see the assessment in that portal. So that may be a good thing, it may not be a good thing. It all depends on how you want to use the portal. What we like in Calhoun is we usually pick yes to that, because even if the kid doesn't take the test digitally and online, the kid can still log into the portal and look at their scores and see what standards went well, what standards didn't go well, and then what resources could I use for next steps. So just want to be clear that that is an option. I'm going to go ahead and click yes because I want the kids to be able to see it when they log into the portal. Any other questions about this screen? Pretty straightforward. You will have to discern as a district what's your naming convention for tests. If somebody names it 1617 Algebra 1, Chapter 1 pretest, and then somebody else names it quadrilaterals, that might be an issue. And I will tell you that if you're going to use this for any kind of evaluation, you want to know what's the name of the test to look at, because there's going to be a lot in there that'll be shared with you. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. What this screen is asking is, hey, what's the correct answer? What's the correct answer? You can do both multiple choice or rubric scored items in the system. So for my example test, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say questions 1 through 8 are multiple choice, and then questions 9 and 10 are rubric. So here's how it works. Question 1, the correct answer is A. Question 2, B, and I'm hitting tab by the way. That's how you do multiple choice questions. And nobody's looking at me weird. Nobody's freaking out, because this is where people sometimes relate. Well, how does the kid know the question? Oh, sorry, Dave. I wasn't trying to.
I'm looking up here, okay, what do I click on for the question?
Anybody want to answer? So we're not typing the question in. We're not recreating the assessment. This is it.
So
It's a bubble sheet. Yeah, all we're making here is an answer document. Yep. So you would give the kid the paper copy, or it would be uploaded online, the kids can do it online, and they would look at it, and then they would basically click or bubble in there this way. You could do that, or you could certainly go to the item bank if you don't have an assessment created already, and you could create the assessment from the item bank. Yep.
Are you talking about, is that for teacher accountability of data manipulation? Is that what you're?
I don't think we have common assessment. We're too small. We don't have the time to sit our staff down and say, create a common assessment. What I think is here is on these test banks that you can create it to cover a standard.
Right.
And here it is.
So when you click on the standard where it says none, when you click on that,
It'll give you a series of questions. And you select a question, and those questions relate to.
But
we're probably all in the same boat with, if you analyze your College Board data, we're probably all struggling in the high level 4 depth of knowledge questions. And so if I'm not mistaken, when I did this first, everybody's like, how do we analyze the data? My wife talks about it all the time. We said, talk about how are we gonna get our students to get to be above state level on these level 4 depth of knowledge questions. And so I think that with a test bank, we're too small to be able to spend the time to create our assessments. We don't have I don't have the resources to say, okay, I'm gonna send my math department, we're all gonna learn how to create assessments.
So here's a couple things I want to show you. One is the way that you would create an item bank assessment is kind of similar to this, but the beginning steps are a little bit different. So I can show you this one. This is what you would do if you already have an assessment. Classroom is a perfect example. I already have a classroom assessment that I want to put in the system. This is how I create the answer sheet. On a bigger scale, though, if I want to create more common, summative assessments or benchmark assessments, I could pull from the item bank. And there's a third option I'll show you, which is those who created the Smarter Balance assessment. The company's called Inspect. They already have built assessments at every grade level throughout the course of the year that you can just look at those and then you can tweak them if you don't like them. So, because I will tell you, it is time consuming to go through the item bank and pull the items together, so maybe the ones that are already pre-built could serve as the basis.
But if you can identify the standard, you can select it. Is that how, that's how I understand
It is.
Works.
That is exactly how it works. I just found in our practice that combing through 500 questions that are tied to a standard takes some time. But again, that's just been our experience. But it can certainly be done. Yep. All right. So the last thing I want to show you on this screen, what if I have a rubric question? So the kid can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 on question 9 or question 10. Here's how you set it up. This column right here, I'm going to check, and I'm going to say, yep, this is a rubric question. Over here under correct, I'm going to put 5, and then under points, I'm going to put 5. So what that means is that the kid can get up to 5 on the rubric, and it's worth 5 points. That's the only way you can do partial credit in the system. If I forget to check that rubric box, you got to get a 5, and if you don't get a 5, you get 0 points. So it's important to check that rubric box to give partial credit. Down here, I'm going to do the same thing. 5, and then 5. So we have built a lot of assessments in Calhoun where we've taken the Teachers Writing College, Lucy Calkins writing rubrics, SAT writing rubrics, and we have made assessments that match the rubric. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Does everybody understand what I just did? 8 multiple choice questions, 2 rubric questions. Both worth 5 points. Sweet. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And I'm basically done. I can administer the test at this point. Okay? I can administer the test, that's why it comes to this screen. I'm not going to do that because I want to add perhaps my SLOs, my I can statements, or my standards. So to do that, you guys good so far? All right, this button right here, setup. This is key. This is where we're going to do most of the setup for the assessment. So I'm going to go through, if I want to get back to that same screen I was on before, I can go setup and then answer key, and that takes me right back to this screen. That was setup, answer key. I can also go setup and then standards. So if I want to add standards to my test, I go setup and then standards. What?
I have some here that says questions is 0. So there's 0 standards in 6th grade math.
right, so what I do next is under subject area, drop down menu, I go ahead and I pick which standard set I want to choose from. So for this, and by the way, there's Common Core here, there are the Glicks, there are the Huskies, Next Gen Science standards are in there. College and career readiness, yeah, there are a lot of standards that are in there. I'm going to go ahead and just pick math, and I'm going to pick, let's go statistics and probability at high school. I like data, so I'm going to go with that one. I'm going to go ahead and click search. The standards that match that criteria show up. I can click the plus to dig down and be as specific as I want with the standard, or I can be as general as I want, and I can check this box up here. So essentially, I just need to expand it till I find the stuff that I want to assess. And I check the box. When we make the item bank assessments, this is the same way that you would pick and look for the items. Yep. Next, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and I'm going to click Link Selected Standards. It shows me the standards that I picked, and as Nate pointed out, there's a 0 next to each one. And that's okay. All that's saying is that you currently have 0 questions aligned to those standards, because the next step is aligning the questions to the standards. All right, so how do we align the questions to the standards? It's still in that setup menu, same setup menu we've been using. We go to setup, and then we go to standards alignment. And this is where we say, this question goes with this standard. So question 1 goes with these 2 standards. Question 2 goes with this one, and then you just, I wish it were this easy. We had a question that came up earlier. Can you go back, can you give the test and then go back and do this after that you've already entered the data? Yes, you can. I will tell you based on my practice, that doesn't usually happen. Especially when I work with secondary folks, this can be a roadblock. It's an interesting roadblock though, because when people bring their tests and they want to learn, they have their test and they want to learn how to put it into the system. And I say you need the answer key and you need the standards alignment. The standards alignment is where it gets pretty interesting, because I'm finding that some folks may not know what standards are aligned to those questions. And so that makes this part really difficult. So in an optimal world, people would come to you with an answer key and what standards, SLOs, or learning targets are attached. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And now these standards are attached to the questions that I've selected. And you see this screen looks different than it did before because we've attached standards. We good? Okay. I have found that most secondary folks are not aligning to standards, but they are aligning to student-friendly learning targets, because that verbiage is what they use in the classroom. So let me show you how to do that. We're going to go to Setup, Question Groups. Setup, and then Question Groups. Here, we can click this Add Question Group button. You can type whatever you want. You can, like I said, it's totally up to you. The beauty of using question groups is that this is what prints out on your reports. So all those colorful reports that I showed you, this is, excuse me, this is what prints out. So if I were to give a kid a report that had the standard codes on it, some kids may be able to figure out with enough help what the standards mean, but most teachers are working in learning target, SLOs. That might be verbiage that's more familiar to kids. So if we can print out a report that actually has that kid-friendly verbiage, then the kid can use it to figure out what are their next steps in learning.
Can you connect both of them?
You got it?
Okay.
So the reports, you can choose when you print the reports out, do you want standards,
Right.
or question groups, or both? Yep. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. I've created the question groups, and you'll notice again, there are 0 questions. I can go to Setup, and then Question Group Alignment, and it's the same idea. So that's under setup and then question group alignment. Question 1 is DOK4 and then so now these questions are aligned to standards and question groups, which is a little bit of overkill, but I think it's better than underkill.
Where at question?
Setup, question group alignment. Yep. All right, moving down that setup menu, performance bands. This is where you control the color coding and the cut points. So go ahead and click on setup and then performance bands, and you'll see a screen that looks maybe a little bit like this. What this screen is showing you are all the different ways that you can color code the data. So the first part is this, overall percent correct. And let me give you an example of what this looks like so you can see what this looks like on the reports. This chart right here, this donut chart, that's the overall percent correct. So right here where it says overall percent correct, whatever performance band we use is going to drive the color coding in this donut chart. If I scroll down and we have these standards, whatever performance band I use here on the standards is what's going to show up for those standards. So I can have a different performance band for the overall score than I do for certain standards. Or you can have it be all the same, doesn't matter.
Is there a way to adjust those?
Yes, good question. So the next question was, is there a way to adjust those? First of all, to know if you want to adjust them, if you click on the performance band, it will show you what's currently there. So this is a 5-band performance band. It shows you the cutoff points. It shows you what's mastery and what's not. Okay? But if you don't like this, no problem. You can make your own. To make your own, you click here. Add a new performance band set. And here's where you can set your cut points. You can also delete bands. So if you want stoplight colors, cool. Take away 2 and only have red, yellow, green. You can change the value, and you can change the label, and you can change the color. Make sense? Yeah, I mean, it's as long as the number statements that you have there match what you want, then you should be good. So I'm going to click Save and Return to Assessment. I made my sample JCISD performance band. Now I actually want to apply that band to the test. So I'm going to say I want to apply that to my standards and to my question groups. So I check that top box and then select all the boxes below it. And you can see right here in this little drop-down menu, it recognizes the one that I just created, my sample JCISD. That's the performance band that I want to apply. So now I go ahead and I click Apply, and here you go, boom. We got district default, and then sample JCISD.
How did you get back to there?
Setup.
Like I'm still where it says create. I created them, and then this is save.
So the first part is this, overall percent correct. And let me give you an example of what this looks like so you can see what this looks like on the reports. This chart right here, this donut chart, that's the overall percent correct. So right here where it says overall percent correct, whatever performance band we use is going to drive the color coding in this donut chart. If I scroll down, and we have these standards, whatever performance band I use here on the standards is what's going to show up for those standards. So I can have a different performance band for the overall score than I do for certain standards. Or you can have it be all the same, doesn't matter.
Is there a way to adjust those?
Yes, good question. So the next question was, is there a way to adjust those? First of all, to know if you want to adjust them, if you click on the performance band, it will show you what's currently there. So this is a 5-band performance band. It shows you the cutoff points. It shows you what's mastery and what's not. Okay? But if you don't like this, no problem. You can make your own. To make your own, you click here. Add a new performance band set. And here's where you can set your cut points. You can also delete bands. So if you want stoplight colors, cool. Take away 2 and only have red, yellow, green. You can change the value, and you can change the label, and you can change the color. Make sense? Yeah, I mean, it's as long as the number statements that you have there match what you want, then you should be good. So I'm going to click Save and Return to Assessment. I made my sample JCISD performance band. Now I actually want to apply that band to the test. So I'm going to say I want to apply that to my standards and to my question groups. So I check that top box and then select all the boxes below it. And you can see right here in this little drop-down menu, it recognizes the one that I just created, my sample JCISD. That's the performance band that I want to apply. So now I go ahead and I click Apply, and here you go, boom. We got district defaults, and then sample JCISD.
How did you get back to there?
Setup?
Like I'm still where it says create. I created them, and then this is save.
So now you're back into the test. You can use the chat. You know, set up the performance band. I do want to tell you that this is way deeper than I probably have ever gone with this stuff with administrators. So kudos to you guys. We usually hover around the what reports are available, and then they would task the creation of assessments to their teachers. But I think it's important for context for you guys to see. If you were to go ask your teachers, I want you to create 2 assessments per 6 to 8 weeks for every prep, make it align to standards or question groups. Now you know, okay, if somebody comes back in his passive-aggressive email or something, then you might know why. So this is good context for you. But I also think, too, this might help with what Susan was talking about. If this could be done at the county level, and somebody, perhaps, like I do this at the county level for our folks. If there are countywide assessments, I build them, I manage them, and then I just share them. So this is where you guys can maybe figure out as a county, are there pieces that the ISD could help support to create, to then share out. So it's something to think about. All right, we've added the performance bands. Next, under setup, this is an important part. Setup, sheet designer. Have to get your sheet together, right? Yeah, thanks, Kelly. That was a courtesy laugh at best. I appreciate that. This is the bubble sheet. If you don't want A through E, then you have to tell the system, don't put A through E on the bubble sheet. All right? If we scroll down, look at question 9 and 10. Why is that different? Why is question 9 and 10 a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, because I checked that rubric box and then I put 5 points. So it automatically filled the bubbles for me. If I don't like this, there's a couple things I can do. I could go through and I could delete E from all of them. No problem, that would work. If I wanted to do them in mass, I can check the boxes that I want to edit, so questions 1 through 8, and I can go down here to where it says responses, and I can say A, B, C, D. And if I click apply, it's going to apply those changes to all the other questions. So that's a kind of a way to mass change those. I hate to see people deleting in next line and then deleting. Okay? Now this next part really throws people for a loop. They'll go up here to change number of responses, and all they see are 4, 5, and 9. Like, well, what if I have 6 questions? What if I have 6 choices? I want to do matching. I mean, what do I pick? There is no 6. See, this is why I hate technology. I mean, then we like get, balls start rolling. Well, what we can do is we can go and choose 9, click apply, and don't worry. Anything that you leave blank on here, the bubble sheet is going to put a circle and then an X through it. So the scanning software isn't even going to look at it. So don't worry if you have more choices than you need. The scanning software, if it sees a blank, it's just going to put a circle and then an X through the bubble and it's not even going to consider it. Okay? Did anybody use to scan with Data Director in here? Yeah. Okay. If you used to scan with Data Director, very, very finicky. It depended on the barometric pressure and the wind speed, on if it worked or not. This one, it's pretty easy to use. But it's easy to use because look at they locked down the options. In Data Director, you can choose as many bubble options as you want. You can customize the bubbles. Here, it's 4, 5, 9. And so by controlling some of those variables, the software is a lot more consistent. I think that's it. Sheet design. Next, to Nate's question, what if we want to give this digitally and we want the kids to see the document electronically? Or what if we just want to use this assessment as a file cabinet? We want to upload a rubric, we want to upload a copy of the test, an answer key, because we just want it to be in the same spot. Well, we can go here to materials. So that was setup and then materials. And we can click upload. And we can upload whatever we want. And it's not obvious. You have to click here in this little box to get the little browse box to come up. You can upload whatever you want. PDF, PowerPoint, MP3, MP4. I mean, it's a folder you can upload to. So, Nate, if you want to give the assessment online and have the kids actually see the document, you have to upload it here. And then when you go through the online assessment setup process, you pick that file to show for the kids.
So it wouldn't be the digital type, like a Google form look.
It's a PDF. So when the kids take the test, the left 2/3 is a PDF. You can scroll up and down it. The right third is their answer page, where they type their responses or pick. Yep. And everything is converted.
So the kid would read the question off the PDF.
Yes. Yep. So real quick, just some innovative things I've seen with this. I have a band and choir teacher that I work with who took the festival rubric, put that festival rubric into Illuminate, and their data for their evaluation is basically he records every 2 weeks how does his band or choir, how do they sound. He takes that MP3 file and he attaches it to the assessment. So when he's sitting with his administrators, he can click on the recording, the administrator can hear what the band sounded like, and then he has a rubric that's all color coded that says, here's what the rubric looked like with this sound. And then he can go 3 weeks later, here's what we sounded like here, here's what the rubric looks like. So it's kind of, yeah, that one blew me away. That was a pretty innovative way of using the files. So just think, if you were getting into that 5th domain, I don't know, what evaluation you guys use over here? Danielson, 5D? 5D. Okay, fair enough. We have a mix. Don't worry. We have,
afraid to say no.
we have a mix in our county too. We're all over the place. But usually there's a piece where you have to provide evidence. Like, what evidence did you use to actually change, your teaching and blah blah blah. And so he had a lot of pretty clear evidence. So this is materials upload. The last piece is sharing. If you wanted to share it, you as an administrator, you cannot see an assessment unless it's been shared with you. That's a common misconception. My administrators I work with say, well, I know my teachers are building assessments, but I can't see them. If they don't share them with you, you can't see them. Can't see them. Okay, I'm not going to go into administration. That would take a whole, probably another hour. But I want to get to the item bank assessments that we talked about. Just know, there's lots of ways to give a test. Lots of ways. You can give it on bubble sheets. You can have them take it online. You can have them take it regular, and then you just manually enter their data. That's not fun. Teachers won't love you for that. What ways have you used? Just scanning? Yep, so go ahead and you set up the answer sheet, print off a bubble sheet, and then, you scan it. It's a lot like self-checkout at Myers, but without the M perks. So you can figure out a way to tie those. That would be pretty cool.
I have a 2-second question, right?
Go ahead. I'll give you 60
I want
seconds.
to share the results of my assessment with other members of my math department. How do I link those users to my assessment?
Okay. So first, when you go to share, we can choose who we want to share with.
Right.
And so I would probably share, so I would share with the users, and you can pick which users you want to share it with. The problem that you're going to encounter is usually teacher accounts are set up so that you can only see data for kids that are on your roster. So if us 4 are a PLC and we want each other to see everybody's data, you can do what's called a student group. And so you can go into the system and say, I want these 100 kids, put them in the student group, and then I'm going to share the student group with you 3, and then it'll work as you say.
So our departments should probably be set up as student groups, math departments, or that department head can have access to data, or?
I'm known as the FERPA sheriff around our, yeah, sorry. So, some schools have chose to give all staff access to all kids, which you can do within the system. Personally, I would say with FERPA, do all staff have education need to know to have access to all data for all kids all the time? I would argue no, but it's a totally local choice. So what I have seen that I kind of like is the department head. There is an account created for the department head, and the username is actually CCHS _ math department. And then whoever the department lead is uses that account to run all the reports and then prepare for the PLC. That's kind of an added responsibility for that person. And then what's nice is if that person leaves or is asked to leave or whatever, then somebody else can just slide right in and change the password, use that account, and it's good.
So we just set our department head up with this different access.
We have a lot of people, we've made totally separate accounts for department heads. Some schools have said, I'm going to give you added permissions because of your role. The problem is if you leave, then I got to go back and give you permission. So create a new assessment. Click item bank, and then OK. And I'm curious to see what happens to you all. No, don't worry, nobody's gonna disappear. But the first time you go to the item bank, oh good. Okay. Yeah, so if you have to create an account, use your exact same Illuminate stuff that you use when you logged in. If you don't, bad things will happen. I promise you that. have to be very clear about. When we go over to the item bank and I say go over, it's not really part of Illuminate anymore. It looks like Illuminate in the background, but it's actually another vendor called Key Data Systems. So what we do is we start in Illuminate, we say we want to make an item bank test. We then jump over to the item bank area, make our test, and then we have to publish it back over to the Illuminate side. So that's just something I want to be clear about, that's a little confusing. There's going to be a button that says go back to Illuminate. And people are like, what? I thought I never left. Well, it's a little subtle, but. So here we go. We can do a couple of things when we make the test. We can choose standard mode, which is, I want to make a test, I want to pick the standards, and I want to pick the questions. If we do quick mode, sorry, I'm not a fan of this mode. We can say, I want the system to pick 5 questions for me from this standard. I want it to pick 3 questions for me from this standard. I'm sorry, personal thing here. I'm not a huge fan of letting the system pick the questions for you, but it is there, it's possible. If we pick item, you can build your own item. So if you wanted to, you can spend time and retype the question, upload the graphics, all that stuff, and it's there. Passage, you can create your own passage. So you can upload entire text, have kids read it, and it's there. But what I'm hearing is we probably want to start here in standard mode. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to click next. This looks kind of familiar. So we're creating a test. We need to give it a name. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's do JCISD sample item bank. But you notice how it looks a little bit different than the previous time when we made an assessment. And it's because it is. We're in a different part of the system. We can put a description if we want to. I'm going to pick an academic year. I'm going to pick this year. You can do grade level if you want. I'm going to skip it. You can pick a subject, but I'm going to skip it. Then go ahead and click Create. Once you click Create, you get a new menu option, and this is where you can search through the standards to then have the system search those standards to show you the items that are available. So what standards are you assessing? I'm going to go over here to type, and I'm going to pick Common Core State Standards, Math, and let's go High School Stats and Probability. At this point, when you pick the standards, you should see items, but here's the catch, and don't get mad at me, I don't make these banks. If you're science, if you're social studies, there aren't any. And I used to teach social studies at the middle school level, and people get really frustrated with that. Unfortunately, Common Core for Math and ELA, it's easier for vendors to throw money at those standards because they're already nationally adopted. Next Gen is getting there, social studies is a whole different discussion. But you're going to find more items connected to Common Core standards. So thank you. You guys are nice over here. Nobody got really mad at me like I made that decision. I didn't.
Do they have state tests coming out for social studies with the law changing in a couple of years and student protocols?
All that I've seen so far is still M-STEP is normal, but maybe other people are privy to more stuff. I sit on the action team that's developing the accountability system under ESSA, and all we've been moving forward in that process with is M-STEP.
Okay.
But things change, right? Yeah, right. So here we go. We found for this standard 868 items. Cool. I'm going to keep digging though, because if you click oh sorry, you already did it. It's okay. If you click 868, it's going to take you to all those. And that's a bummer because you probably want to be more specific. I'm going to get as specific as possible. And it behooves you to do that because then you don't have to sort through as many items. So I'm going to say, all right, represent data. Yes, I'm in. That sounds like a good one. Interpret differences in shape and center. 43. So you see what happens? You click the number and then the little link shows up and the system knows that you want to look in further into those standards. this is where and you just saw me doing it, I like to scroll down and click search, but it's actually this continue button over here. Navigation is a little different because it is a different type of assistant. So I'm gonna go over here and click continue. The system knows that I want to consider those standards, but now it wants to know what types of questions do I want. Do I want DOK 1, 2, 3, 4? Do I want technology enhanced items? Do I want passages? All of that stuff. And you choose based on these options here. So if we go to, let's see, item types, we can click select item types, and we can choose which type of items we want to see. So if you got the feeling that M-Step Online and technology enhanced items maybe didn't go so well for your kids, like the drag and drop, select multiple text, all that stuff, you could try to find items that match. But I'll tell you, and I didn't make it this way, that the more options you choose, the more you're filtering down your possible choices. So some people are like, I want this standard and I want a selectable text question. And they don't have it because they're just being too specific. So just know that that's a possibility. Let's see here. Attributes. So if I click right here, under attributes, I can scroll down and I can look at all sorts of things. So I've got depth of knowledge, I've got blooms, I've got math practice. All of that is there. So this item bank, I don't know how Jackson's paid, if they're paying for it, if you guys, does anybody know? Is ISC paying for the item bank for you this year?
Mine might be different here, so I'm not sure we're paying for it.
Yeah. Oh. Do you guys?
I got it.
Okay.
I don't know how we're paying for it.
I'll tell you in Calhoun.
We asked earlier, so we hope we're paying for it.
In Calhoun, we paid for this item bank it's like what is it, $1.50 per kid is what, so we covered that through that grant last year and this year. Next year it'll be a kind of a shared cost with the districts. But the nice part about it is, if you pay for the item bank, this is the kind of stuff you get. You're gonna get depth of knowledge, all of these filters. If you get just the free item bank, you don't get all this nice stuff. So this is really what you're paying for, is the ability to specify, and they're quality items. I really do think they are. I'm gonna go ahead and, let's see, I'm just gonna go ahead and click search. So you can pick all of your filters, and then I'm gonna go ahead and click search. After you pick your filters and click search, then the items eventually will load. So here's the time-consuming part. You have to scroll through, check it out, evaluate if it's something you like, and then when you do, click Add. And the more you play with this, the more you're going to have to discern, do I want an item bank item that the teacher has to use a rubric to grade, or do I want it to be totally selected response? Because again, like we pointed out over here, if you're trying to standardize the way that all 4 of those Algebra 1 teachers do the test, then no problem. But a rubric, you're going to have to then do some standard setting on the rubric to make sure they all understand how to use the rubric the same way. So let's go ahead and take like maybe 1 minute and just add a few questions to your test. And then I want to show you how to complete this and then publish it so that you can actually see it on the real side of Illuminate. Kelly, can I grab some?
Yeah, thanks.
empowered.
Yeah.
He delegates really well.
Empower.
He's got other things to do.
All right, so you've added a few questions. Next, we're going to click continue over on the right, and these tiles give you a breakdown about, I got 4 items, I got 3 standards, I've got 4, whatever this is, MA matching tables. Okay, cool. That's a breakdown of my blueprint of the test. I'm going to click continue. This is the review phase, and I know that because up here in the menu, I'm at this review tab. I go through and I'm like, okay, yep, this looks fantastic. This is the way to go. I'm going to go ahead and click continue again. It wants to know if I want to add a section. So I wanted to add a section of the test called multiple choice, and another section called constructed response. I could add sections. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to have them all be in one section. That's mostly for reporting, so you can get a report how they do on the multiple choice versus the essay. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to click continue. You get some options for your booklet. So when you actually publish it, they don't have Comic Sans on there. Sorry. You guys know about that? There's like a huge movement against Comic Sans.
Really?
You guys know that? Yeah, Google it. Have we talked about this?
No.
Okay, all right. People in my office know that I'm not a huge fan of Comic Sans, so anytime that they get the opportunity to send anything to me with Comic Sans, I always get stuff with Comic Sans. So there you go, Kelly. Now you know. Everything that comes from Kelly is going to have Comic Sans.
And have to do on it in their
Yes.
email.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you pick your choices, and then you click Generate. And it will show you what the booklet looks like. And keep in mind, this is a booklet that you can print out. And this is probably a bad example because I didn't pick the great questions for a booklet. But if I can print this out and give it to kids, I can also print out the bubble sheet, so they don't need any technology to take this. Or I can administer this online, and if I administer it online, they can see the questions, they can see the distractors, all that stuff is online. And by the way, I should have read this right here. It told me. Hey, it's kind of like the very last thing. Here's the breakdown of all the stuff you claim. Are you sure you want to submit it? So I'm going to go ahead and click Publish. You have to publish it in order to administer it. This is a step that a lot of people at first will miss. They make it, and then they go to the Illuminate side, and they go to give it, and they're like, I can't even see it. You can't see this until you publish it. Okay? All right. So I want to again underscore the point that this is a different system. Check out the top menu bar. It says Illuminate Item Bank, create assessments and then items. That's different than what we had before, because before we went to assessments, create a new assessment and all that stuff. Well here, if we click on assessments, these are all of the item bank assessments I've made. These don't include the assessments I made on the other side of Illuminate, the manual assessments and all that stuff. This is only item bank assessments. So now the question is, how the heck do I administer it? I made it, but I want to share it with my teachers and I want to administer it. We have to click this button right here, Return to Illuminate. Return to Illuminate. You have to go back to the real Illuminate, not the fake. And this is the assessment search area, where we can search for all the assessments that have been shared with us or that we have created. What's your guys' screen look like? Does it have a bunch of blue stuff clicked up here? Or is it totally empty? Blue? Okay. Every blue box you see is a filter. So that means the filter is turned on. So a lot of times I'll see this on people's screen. I'll see this. And then people search. And they're like, I can't find anything. See, this is why I hate technology, blah, blah, blah. I mean, then all this stuff. Well, the reason you can't find anything is because you have too many filters turned on. You've out-filtered yourself, okay? So what I like to tell people to do is clear your filters, and then you can see everything. So if you clear your filters, that means you can see everything that you've made, or that you have access to. and your assessment that you're looking for will be at the top. So that JCISD sample item bank, there it is, up the top. If I didn't click publish, it wouldn't be there. It would still be over on the other side of the system. So we've covered how to make your own, the manual assessment, if you have one that you've already created, how to do an item bank. And the last thing I want to put out there, you may not have access to these, we may have to have Val install them for you. Are these ones? I think it's KDS. Let me see here. All right, what do I do here? There it is. Key data aspects. Okay, so these assessments, 410 of them, were all made by a company called Key Data Systems. That's the same company that owns the item bank we just used. It's also the same company who built all the smarter balance assessments. Because they partner with Illuminate, Illuminate has all of these pre-built assessments available for its users. So, and you could do a half day on just these assessments right here. So what they basically did was they went through the item bank, they pulled all their items together by grade level, by subject, and by time of year, because there's this pacing guide for smarter balance assessments where you can do some interim benchmark assessments, and they pre-built assessments for you. So this is where we were talking, this might be a way you could start here, and then you can edit these as you want. So if I'm curious about, let's do 11th grade math assessments from Key Data Systems. I'm going to search, and let's see if we have anything. We found 49. So I can't speak to, we don't have a lot of folks using these right now, but we've got geometry, we've got this Math 3 interim formative. Now where it says orange and pink, those colors represent times of year. And we could Google it, but there's like orange, it's silly. Orange is October, pink is February, green is March. So this is something that we haven't jumped into over in Calhoun that I think at the secondary level could be interesting. And I will tell you, over in Calhoun, we don't have these types of meetings. Like, we don't have principal meetings, so we just don't get in front of people enough to do it. I would have to go to each district and really show them this stuff. So it's just something to take a look at. Could be worth, if you want to look at it, you can click on the assessment. Do you guys see these, by the way?
Where did you find them?
I went to assessments, list assessments, and I'm going to clear my filters. And I just searched for Key Data SYS, so Key Data System. And then I got 410. And if you don't have any, we would need to have Val install them for you. Nope, don't see them?
No.
Okay. So what I would do, if there's somebody in here who wants to contact Val and say, hey Val, will you install these for all of the schools in Jackson County? Make her do it. That's what she does. Because that's what she had to do for me. 1, 2, 3, not it. Okay.
Nose goes.
Nose goes, okay.
Anybody that's not
Gotcha.
touching their nose is doing it. Dan, were you
I went up, you saw it.
Huh?
I went up, my hand was up. I said, that was dumb.
Alright, I get it. I get it.
You're in charge.
She just sent something to us, I'll respond to her.
I would say, or I could email her, but it might be weird if she's like, why is Mitch emailing me about? Okay, the last thing that I want to leave you with, and honestly, time-wise, this is the most important, but I think you had to see some stuff in the system. We had to talk about the why, we had to talk about assessment calendars, and that is reporting. So I'm going to go back here, and your task, you got a lot of them, but one important task for you is going to be, how do we make sure that the reports that Illuminate provides matches the needs that we have, okay? So first of all, you got to identify your needs. So I have a quick screenshot up here This is a sample data protocol from one of my districts that I work with. Again, Google PLC guiding questions at D4, would be happy to sell you some stuff. But this is what they use. So this is perfect. If a school comes to me and says, hey Mitch, boom, here are the questions that we want teachers and administrators to answer. Then I can take that and say, all right, how does this tool help you accomplish that? So here's kind of what I did. So I took this and I said, all right, I know that there are some reports in the system that will help you answer some of these questions. Not all of them. There's no magic PLC report that spits out, do this with these kids at this time. That doesn't exist. But I can give you some reports that will get you to answer these questions fairly quickly. So these titles might not mean much to you right now, and that's totally fine. But what I'm trying to articulate is that if you can pair 2 or 3 reports with what teachers need to do, then all they got to be concerned about is those 2 or 3 reports, not the other 21 reports that are in the system. There are tons of reports in the system. You can get bogged down easily. So here's what we do. We take this and we say, these are the questions you've got to answer. Here are the reports to look at. And then we show them a screenshot of the report and we teach them how to use the report to answer the question. And I'm not trying to be condescending, but I think we assume that teachers know and administrators know and superintendents know how to look at data, how to organize it, make meaning, and then make an action plan. I think we assume that. Okay? Has anybody ever taught peer response to students? Where they, yes? You write, and then you switch papers, and then Nate and I have to give each other feedback? How's that go at first? It's a catastrophe, absolutely. Usually what happens is I would get Nate's paper, I would look at it, and I might draw like a smiley face or say like, hey, great job. But that's the extent of the feedback he gets. It's not very productive, it's not going to help him. So then what we do is we usually back kids up and maybe we do a fishbowl. And the kids sit around and then Nate and I partner up and I model for them, how do we do this? How do I read his paper? How do I give him constructive feedback? I don't write a smiley face, that's not going to be really helpful to him. I think that's what we have to do with teachers, principals, and superintendents around data. We got to model it. We got to fishbowl it. So, being explicit about reports and questions, I think is important. Okay. Last thing. Kelly, you requested access to this. Was it not shared?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Oh, interesting. I'll make a copy of this and share it with you. Sorry. Has anybody done the Wellman and Lipton protocol? No? Okay. So, the title of this book is, hold on, let me just do a few things here. I shared with you the protocol my staff and I use for help desk tickets, but that's not going to be very helpful either. Stop. Okay, here it is. Let's delete that. Okay, I'll delete the text later. Here's the idea. Has anybody ever seen the book Got Data? Okay, this comes from the book Got Data. This is totally not an Illuminate thing. It's a practice that we use with help desk tickets, with school improvement data, with all sorts of data. The Wellman and Lipton protocol is 5 steps. The first step is prediction and assumption. It's actually here. Sure. You can see ours. So all the stuff you're looking at, all the context, my staff and I, the team that I oversee, we looked at our help desk data, and we are trying to use it. We use this protocol to analyze our help desk data. Okay? So what we basically said is, what do we predict the data is going to say? Is that wrong? What? Sorry, is there something bad on there?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's just interesting first question.
What's that?
What do you predict the data?
Oh, yeah, so here's what I do. When I lead my staff through this, we don't even look at the data first. We say, this is data we're gonna look at, but we don't even see it. So they have to predict, what do you think the data is gonna say? And then, why do you believe this? So it's awesome because when we give data to somebody, they start making meaning out of it right away, and they automatically jump to conclusions. So for this one, they have to say, well, we've had a lot of issues with food service, or we've had a lot of issues with this or with that. And so I predict that this is gonna be a higher ticket need because of this assumption. So this is really cool because it's really non-threatening. It is, what are your predictions? What are your assumptions? You might be right, you might be wrong. Next, we go through and we observe. And this really pisses people off at first. Because in this one, if you're moderating, you kind of have to be strict. This is just the facts. I give you the data, and you look at the data, but you can only make observations. You can't say, oh, well, login accounts are the highest ticket need that we have because nobody remembers their password. Nope, stop right there. You can say that login tickets are the highest, but you gotta stop there. So it's purely observational. Make sense so far? Predictions, assumptions, observations. And then finally, we have causes and actions. This is where we get to start making some meaning. So let's take our observations and let's talk about what are some potential causes. Now, if you look at the book Got Data, if you use this for education, and we didn't use it for education, it was for help desk tickets. Causes are going to be things like infrastructure, leadership, students, teachers. There are like 6 drivers that Wellman and Lippin use in their book. We just didn't use that because it wasn't appropriate for this part. And then actions. That's the last part. So what actions are we going to take based on those causes? So I wanted to share that because that's another example of a protocol that you might use with teachers. I mean, to me, this is really low stakes. If we're going to sit down and talk about data, and I ask Nate, hey, what do you predict? What do you think the data is going to show? I mean,